Canada's property market, man, it was one of the hottest in the world for a while there. But now, it's in an absolute freefall. And if you're watching from here in Australia, you can't help but ask that one big question. Are we next? To figure that out, we've got to follow the data. So after this supercharged post-pandemic boom, the Canadian market has done a complete 180. It's totally reversed course. And you know all those people who've been doubting the market for years? Well, they're finally getting their I told you so moment. But does that mean Australia is really destined to follow Canada's fate? Let's just take a look at how bad the damage really is over there.
All right, first up, the plunge. Just how steep was this fall from grace? Honestly, the numbers coming out of Canada are pretty staggering.
Get this, a drop of 19.3% at a national level. That one number has wiped out all the gains made since April 2021. This isn't just some minor market correction, you know? This is a serious plunge, and it's leaving anyone who bought at the peak deep, deep underwater.
And if you look at Canada's version of Sydney, Greater Toronto, the fall is even steeper. We're talking a 24% drop. In a city that huge, that's a massive economic shock. It really proves this isn't some small regional issue. It's hitting the very heart of their economy.
And in some of those suburban pockets, wow, the situation is even more dire. A 31% drop in places like Oakville. That represents a huge loss of family wealth in a ridiculously short amount of time.
Okay, so we've seen the what. The numbers are pretty shocking. Now let's dig into the why. What forces came together to create such a, well, perfect storm for the Canadian property market? It really boils down to three critical factors.
So yeah, this wasn't just one single thing. It was a combination of three major issues hitting all at once. A massive affordability crisis, a sudden jump in unemployment, and a weakening economy that just shattered public confidence. Let's break each of those down.
First, you've got this extreme affordability gap. I mean, when property prices shoot up 76% while wages have only grown 17%, you know the market is on borrowed time. And on top of that, Canada's facing a huge mortgage cliff. All those homeowners who got cheap loans during the pandemic are now having to renew at rates that have more than doubled. It's a brutal reality check.
Next up, a job market shock. Unemployment just surged to its highest level in years, if you don't count the very beginning of the pandemic. And crucially, it's hitting the prime home buying generation. We're talking people aged 25 to 54. With youth unemployment at a staggering 14.6%, while the next wave of buyers just isn't there.
And the final piece of this economic puzzle is just this widespread fear of a recession. With 2 straight quarters of negative growth, confidence is plummeting. I mean, it makes sense, right? People who are worried about their jobs, they don't go out and buy houses. But just as this perfect storm was brewing, another shock hit. And this was one that absolutely nobody saw coming.
Okay, this is the real twist in the story. For years, one thing reliably propped up Canadian housing demand: really strong immigration. But in less than 2 years, the government didn't just tap the brakes on that, they slammed them into reverse.
Just look at how fast this all happened. Canada went from welcoming over 1 million newcomers a year to population growth basically grinding to a halt. The government is now actively trying to reduce the number of temporary residents, taking away a key driver of demand that suddenly, well, it was a body blow to the housing market.
And here's the direct result. The condo market, or what we'd call the apartment market, which relies so heavily on investors and new arrivals, it has completely imploded. Sales in Toronto are down 75%. There's now so much unsold inventory that at the current pace of sales, it would take 6 years to clear it all. That isn't a correction, that's a collapse.
So we've got a pretty clear picture of Canada, right? An affordability crisis, rising unemployment, recession fears, and then this sudden population shock. The big question remains, how does Australia stack up against all that? Let's put them side by side and see.
And when you do put them side by side, the differences are just stark. Canada's unemployment is surging. Australia's is still low. Canada's economy is on the brink of recession. Australia's is holding up. But the single most important difference is this last one: population growth. Canada has hit a wall, while Australia's strong intake continues to create this fundamental floor under our housing demand.
Okay, so let's bring all this evidence together so we can finally answer that initial question. Are Australia and Canada on the same path? Well, the analysis points to a pretty clear conclusion.
This right here, this is the absolute key takeaway. While that basic economic principle of supply and demand is universal, it applies everywhere, what's actually driving that supply and demand is completely different in Australia compared to Canada right now. You just can't copy and paste the outcome from one country to another.
So ultimately, Australia's destiny looks different for three key reasons. First, and this is the most important one, strong and consistent migration continues to fuel demand here. Second, our robust job market gives people the security they need to buy property. And finally, our apartment market already had its major correction about a decade ago. So that speculative froth that just popped in Canada, it just isn't there in the same way here.
Look, having this kind of data-driven perspective is just crucial for understanding these really complex markets. And the analysis and insights for today's explainer come from the excellent work of Alex Shang over at Oz Property Strategy.
If you want to go even deeper on topics just like this, you should absolutely subscribe to the Oz Property Strategy YouTube channel. They're putting out new videos every week. And for more information on how their data-driven approach could help you build an investment portfolio, you can find all the details on their services over at their website.
And if you have questions about your own property investment journey, you can even book a free, no-obligation discovery call directly with their team. So while it seems Australia isn't on the same path as Canada, at least for now, it's a really powerful reminder of how quickly the fundamentals of a market can change. The real question isn't if our market will face its own unique challenges, but what they'll be and how prepared we are to face them. And before we go, just a quick reminder that this content is for informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Thanks for watching.
So look ahead 5 years. As this wealth divide gets wider and wider, which side do you want to be on?
Answering that question for yourself isn't easy, and it really requires a plan. So if you're ready to move from just thinking about this stuff to actually taking action, here's what you can do.
To stay on top of all these fast-moving trends, I highly recommend you follow at Oz Property Strategy on YouTube. They release new videos every single week with really deep dives into real estate, what's happening with the economy, and actual strategies for building wealth. If you want to learn more about getting professional help, a service that can bring together investment strategy, a buyer's agency, and financial services all in one place, you can visit their website. It's www.ozpropertystrategy.com. And finally, you can book a free discovery call to talk about your own personal situation directly with them. On that note, I want to give a huge thank you to Alex Shang from Oz Property Strategy. He provided all the incredible insights that made this explainer possible. And of course, just a quick but very important reminder, this information is general in nature. It is absolutely not financial, legal, or tax advice. You really need to consult with a qualified professional who can give you guidance tailored to your specific situation. Thanks for watching.